Happy New Year everyone, and thank you so much for being here. It's a little bit of a special year for me this year. It will be my 60th trip around the sun, and it's also the Chinese Year of the Horse, which is my astrological sign. And if it's yours too, just wear a little bit of red because it's said to bring you good luck. For the past 16 years, I've cooked for a living, and I cook nourishing meals at work all day. Then I come home and cook again for Mike, who does really well on a carnivore style diet, but it's not my thing. And if I'm honest, the last person I ever think about cooking for is myself. And by the time I get home, I'm tired and I'm over food, so I usually have some rice crackers with cheese and Vegemite or a bowl of yogurt. But my body's been sending me messages that I really need to start nourishing it properly. And it's only taken me 6 decades to realise that I need to care properly for myself in order to care better for others. When I look at the people I've known and I know who've lived well into their 90s or are still living, including both my grandmothers and great-grandmothers, all of whom were physically and mentally healthy, and every single one of them ate a varied diet. No food groups were excluded, there was no low fat, and always plenty of fruit and vegetables. And you know what? They all enjoyed their morning teas and desserts as well. And the one thing that they had very little of was processed foods and preservatives. Meals were cooked from scratch. It's how I cook anyway, but I'm choosing to actually eat it this year. Real food, lots of fruit and vegetables, good proteins, good fats, and naturally a lovely homemade dessert or a cake now and then, because I love baking and I've got a sweet tooth, and so does Mike. Now, I can't afford to buy everything organic, so I soak my vegetables for about 20 minutes in a solution of bicarb soda and water, and then rinse them really well and dry them and either use them or store them in a container in the fridge. And that should remove some of the surface pesticides. Where I can put extra money, I like to put it into milk and meat and eggs and cream and butter. Basically anything from an animal. I have some really lovely recipes to share with you this year, and the first one I want to kick the year off with is for a Pasta Primavera, which is basically lots of vegetables with pasta, and it's delicious, simple, and any leftovers I can take to work. So I'm going for a bit of a green theme today, but you can use any vegetables you like, whatever's in season and whatever you like to eat. And I'll weigh these all for you so I can put it in the recipe on the website. So I've just got some green beans here, which I've just taken the ends off. And I've got some snow peas, which I've just snapped and taken the string off. And I have a small bunch of asparagus, 2 zucchini. I'm going to also chop some broccoli into small florets, and I always keep the stem. I like it. Just small little florets. Everything should sort of be bite size. And it's such a quick cook, so it's best to prepare everything beforehand. So that's 200 grams of broccoli florets, 130 grams of asparagus. I'll just cut off the woody ends, which are hard to eat, and just cut them into pieces. And that's also 200 grams of green beans. And with the beans, I'll just cut them into sort of like thirds. And with the snow peas, you can keep them whole or sort of chop them on the diagonal. I'm going to chop them on the diagonal and trying to keep them all a bit separate. They'll all go in at once, but you'll see soon I'm going to blanch them first in the pasta water. And I have 2 zucchini here that weigh 400 grams. And I'm just going to chop these into sort of like batons. Maybe that's too much zucchini, so I'm going to save this half. I think that's enough zucchini. And then I've also got 200 grams of button mushrooms here, and I'm just going to slice them thinly. These don't get blanched, these get fried. And mushrooms can be washed as long as you use them straight away. So you can store them unwashed and then wash them before you're going to use them. 2 or 3 cloves of garlic just finely chopped. A small handful of fresh basil, or if you can't get fresh basil, just like a half a teaspoon of dried basil, maybe a teaspoon if you like the flavour. And all I do is sort of roughly pile them on top of one another, roll them up, and then just cut them finely. And I love basil in this. I might actually put some more in. And then again, some parsley, roughly chopped will do. I much prefer curly parsley than the Italian parsley. I just find it easier to cook with and like better value for money. And a couple of tablespoons of pine nuts. I use about that much butter, which weighs 80 grams. This ingredient, the Parmesan or pecorino, would be delicious if you can get it. It's terribly expensive where I live though, so I'm just using Parmesan today. But I like to grate it. I find buying it in the blocks is much more economical than buying it already grated. But I like to grate it now and have it ready because this is what you serve it with. And that should be enough for 2 bowls of pasta. But this recipe makes enough to serve at least 4 people. And of course you'll need pasta, and you can just use spaghetti, you don't have to use penne. And if you're gluten-free, this is a really lovely brand of pasta if you can get it. The first thing I do is put on a large pot of water, and then I add 2 big spoonfuls of salt, and this will season the vegetables. And as I blanch the vegetables, I have a tray ready to put them on, to leave them to cool. So I'll just throw in the broccoli. So once it comes back to the boil, I count to 30, so like 30 seconds, and then I take them out. And I put them on the tray to dry out. And I do the same with each vegetable. The beans, zucchini, and some asparagus. I mix them together. And now just the snow peas. And this is a wonderful way to do it because none of the nutrients are lost, because now I'm going to cook the pasta in this same water. And that is all the beautiful green vegetables. I top the pot up with water for the pasta and bring it back to the boil. Now it's a quick cook as soon as you add the pasta, and I'm going to try and do it and film it at the same time. So into the salted water I put my pasta, which is a 250 gram packet, but you know, 300 grams, 350 grams, 400 grams, that all work. Then over a moderate heat, I put a heavy based big pan on the stove and add 70 to 80 grams of butter, and the same in olive oil, which is about 1/3 cup, 70 to 80 mils. And I know that seems a lot, but it is the sauce. And at the same time I put the garlic in because that will gently cook it as the butter and the oil come up to the heat. And when the butter starts sizzling and foaming, that means the garlic's cooked, or well, it's had enough time. And then I add the mushrooms. And I toss them around and just cook the mushrooms just for a minute or 2. And that's been 2 minutes, and then in goes all the vegetables that were blanched. And I move these around, making sure they all get coated in the oil and the butter mixture, and warm them all back up again. Then I season it really well with black pepper. Put in the 2 tablespoons or so of pine nuts, the parsley, the basil, just a small little grating of nutmeg, just a pinch, because nutmeg is a really powerful spice. And toss that all around gently. And that's a frog you can hear. We've still got them. I'm just going to add just a tiny pinch of salt because the vegetables were cooked in the salted water. They do have seasoning already. I'll just see if the penne is right. Oh, that looks good. I like to just take it from pot to pot because that way a little bit of the pasta water gets into the pasta sauce, which makes it even nicer. And it just helps the vegetables stick better to the pasta. And that is done. Time to turn it off and plate it up. This is a huge pasta bowl. Plenty of Parmesan cheese. And always serve it with a bit of salt and a bit of pepper because people can season it to their liking. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to eat this whole bowl of pasta. It tastes really yum. And I want to share a quote with you I just read recently actually, and it was from some famous writer, and I can't remember who it was, but it said, when you cook food and when you serve it, imagine it's like you would like to receive if you were at a restaurant. And that stuck with me a little bit because I think it's going to make me just that little bit extra better cook. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you again soon.